This time of year is a big time for Nintendo, with their biggest releases always reserved for the fall. We've had games like Link's Awakening, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Pokemon, which I'm sure are all great, but what about the world of indie games? I've compiled a short list of new eShop games that I think are worth checking out. Now, full disclosure, all 4 of these games today were provided for review by their respective publishers, but as always, that does not affect my opinion in any way. Now, while I didn't exactly love all 4 of these games, I do feel like they all at least bring something fun and unique to the table that may make it worth your time and money. So let's check them out, starting with Cat Quest 2. Cat Quest 2, if it isn't obvious, is a sequel to Cat Quest, a game I've never played, but a friend of mine loved it, so I thought it'd be interesting to check out the sequel. Cat Quest 2 has you playing as, of course, a cat, and in a strange change of pace for a game called Cat Quest, you play as a dog too. The 2 of them are actually reincarnations or something of the ancient kings of the cat and dog people who have returned to fight their way through this open-world action RPG to bring peace in a time of war between cats and dogs. You can switch between the 2 characters on the fly, equipping each with their own weapons, armor, and spells to change things up and bring a bit of strategy into your hacking and slashing. The customization's actually pretty nice. You can have a mage and a knight, a ninja. There aren't exactly set classes, but the equipment you choose will determine your playstyle. Switching between the 2 characters on your own is nice, but if you have a friend, or at least a wife or whoever who is willing to play games like this with you, you can even play co-op. You can walk around the overworld fighting enemies, talking to NPCs, completing side quests, and exploring dungeons. Be careful though, wander too far and this game will xenoblade you with some high-level enemies and dungeons. Also, I really hope you like cat puns, because there are a lot. I like how these are basically cat versions of Zoran and Thorin from Final Fantasy IX. Some of the dungeons remind me of cartoony versions of Diablo 3 dungeons, and the cutesy art is bright and pleasant to look at. Not my preferred graphical style, but they pulled it off nicely. The game is fine. It's a bit on the repetitive side for me, but it's fun to just take on the go with your Switch for some hacking and slashing goodness, and it's probably even better if you're playing co-op, but I sure don't know. Next, we have Door Kickers Action Squad. The original Door Kickers is a more straight-laced, slow, and tactical strategy game that has you directing a SWAT team performing various missions from a top-down view. Action Squad takes that concept, simplifies it a bit, throws it into a 2D side-scroller, and slaps on a coat of pixel art, and it is not afraid to get a little silly. That doesn't mean this game isn't still very tactical for what it is. Take the concept of Hotline Miami, slow down the pace a little bit, make it a little bit easier because you don't just die in one hit, and throw in some hostage rescue, and you've got Door Kickers Action Squad. You can actually choose between a number of different squad mates, each with their own weapons to unlock and skill trees to level. The better you perform in a level, the more stars you get, which you can then use to unlock new equipment, which will help you have an easier time of dealing with the increasing difficulty of an already difficult game. Finish levels quickly, avoid killing hostages, and just be all around efficient to get a better score, and you'll unlock stuff in no time. But this is much easier said than done. Each squad mate has their own approach of tackling levels and even has their own difficulty, showing how much of a challenge it may be to use them. My personal favorite is Breacher, whose difficulty is just LOL, because compared to anyone else, he is extremely easy to use with his one-hit kill shotgun. Unlock an auto shotgun with its increased rate of fire, and forget about it, you're basically set. Just watch out for hostages. The game does get pretty frustrating at times, dying frequently over and over in the same level, but it's a fun challenge that's sure to be a great time on the go if you're into games like Hotline Miami, where the fun comes from the trial and error. It gives you a nice sense of accomplishment by beating a difficult level after dying many times. And if you want to shake things up and try something different, the game even has a randomly generated mode, and my personal favorite, Zombie Invasion, which basically takes the same levels you can play in normal mode, but just throws in some zombies and evil zombie doors that you gotta close. Sure, why not? Reloading. It makes the game a lot more interesting to me, not that the normal mode isn't already fun to begin with. There's also co-op in this game too, which... And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the soundtrack, which is full of bangers. Seriously, plug in some headphones while playing and just enjoy the music. It's actually really strong and fits nicely. It gives off some nice synthwave 80s tones, and it works really well. Door Kickers Action Squad is a fun, challenging time. Just remember, if you're playing in handheld mode, resist the urge to throw your Switch in frustration, even when the game crashes. Up next is Pig Eat Ball, a game that the description would describe as a Pac-Man-like, which is true, but it's actually so much more. Seriously, I was expecting just a weird Pac-Man clone, but this is way more than that. Pig Eat Ball has you playing as Princess Bow, or Bow? It's B-O-W is how it's spelled. And she's a pig princess whose father is actually this mariachi cake head dude who is giving off some serious King of All Cosmos vibes. The king, who is actually just named King Cake, is holding a royal competition so that the winner can marry the princess, but Bo, we're just gonna call her, is a strong, independent woman who don't need no man, and therefore dons her best disguise and departs to take place in the competition herself. The game will have you partaking in various puzzles to collect all the little yellow orbs in a level with various types of challenges thrown in, like avoiding spikes, breaking through walls, fighting bosses, and even, yes, a very literal Pac-Man inspired level with some of the most terrifying ghosts in all of video games chasing after you. I don't like it. Go away, scary ghosts. Leave. You have your main abilities such as Kirbying up all the yellow orbs as well as smaller enemies, all of which you can barf out. You can also boost into breakable walls and into certain enemies as well. As you eat more orbs, your body expands, and you'll come across some small gaps which you can only pass through by, well, barfing. You barf out the orbs that you already swallowed, only to have to eat them up again. Yeah, the game's a little gross. In between levels, you travel through a surprisingly large and detailed hub world, which plays like a level itself, with its own series of orbs to collect, hidden items, and splitting paths to navigate through. It actually feels pretty alive, with things actually going on, like these bugs playing tennis. I mean, they're just playing tennis, look at that. The graphics are admittedly not my cup of tea, being a little on the ugly side, but the ugliness feels intentional here. Yet I can't help but appreciate the very specific vibe it gives off. Kinda reminds me of old Super Nintendo games like Cool Spot, Mohawk and Headphone Jack, and Zombies Ate My Neighbors. And speaking of the King of All Cosmos, the music is well done and very fitting for this game, and often gives off some serious Katamari vibes. Personally, the game is not one that I am all that into, but it's not a bad game at all. It's surprisingly deep for a game that is basically advertised as a Pac-Man clone, and has a lot going for it. If this sounds like something you'd be into, by all means, check it out. If this is your thing, you're gonna have a good time. Now, I certainly saved the best for last, at least in my opinion. I've always loved games like Myst growing up, games where you're walking around in a first-person view trying to solve puzzles and figure out the mystery of what exactly is going on in this world around you. Doing the best to solve all the puzzles on your own until you inevitably open GameFAQs just this once because you've been stuck on a puzzle for the last 30 minutes. Well, this next game is much like any of those, and it's one that I personally have been loving and putting more time into than any of the other games on this video, and that is The Eyes of Aura. The Eyes of Aura is new to the Switch, but what I didn't know is that it's actually an award-winning adventure game that was released in 2016 on PC and mobile devices, and it shows from the moment you start your adventure that there was a lot of love put into this game. You embark into an old medieval castle, solving puzzles and reading notes and journals, giving you a peek into the game's backstory. And while it is a creepy old castle and some of the journals mention spirits, this is not a horror game. Yeah, so in case you're someone like me who is just not down to play horror games, The Eyes of Aura is strictly a puzzle adventure game. I'm about 6 hours in and I have not had to deal with anything scary at all. Yeah, so if you're not into horror and that might hold you back from checking this game out, don't worry. If you're into games like Myst, The Witness, and The Room, this is going to be familiar territory and you already know you're gonna have a good time, if you're planning to play in handheld mode. I personally played a good chunk of the game docked so that I could record this footage for the video, and boy, the controls in docked mode, are not good. The only way to play this game in docked mode is to use a single Joy-Con pointing it at the screen to move a cursor. Normally this could be fine, some games have done it well, except the cursor becomes uncentered so frequently that you'll constantly find yourself aimed off to the side after moving the Joy-Con only a few times, and you end up needing to press the recenter button. And to make matters worse, the game does the cardinal sin of using the B button to select and the A button to cancel. You don't do that on a Nintendo system. A is select, B is cancel. It is just very confusing for my muscle memory, and I could not get used to it in the 3 hours or so that I played using the docked mode. Don't do that! And to make matters worse, sometimes the cursor will struggle and lag, and it makes it very frustrating when you're just trying to aim at a specific object. And when it comes to more specific manipulations of objects, such as turning small dials or large wheels or what have you, let's just say I hope you have some patience. Again, this is the only way to control the game in docked mode. I mean, why? Was the thumbstick not good enough? Couldn't just use a Pro controller or something, or both Joy-Cons and you can use the thumbsticks like, I don't know, every game? Fortunately, again, this is only an issue in docked mode. When you're playing in handheld mode, you just use touch controls and the game runs just fine. It makes it leagues easier to perform different actions, and I didn't notice any lag. You can even completely take the Joy-Cons off of the Switch and just hold it like a tablet and play with the touchscreen, and it's actually really comfortable and doable. I've never played a Switch game like this without any Joy-Cons or anything, and it's really fine. I like it. Controls aside, like I said, this is personally my favorite game of the bunch and one that I am most invested in. Still working my way through trying to complete this game as of writing this video. If you're gonna play it, just take it out of the dock, play with the touch controls, and it's gonna be fun. So there you have it, 4 new games on the Nintendo Switch eShop that are, for better or worse, at least worth checking out. None of them are gonna break the bank, so no matter which of the 4 you might choose to pick up, you're gonna at least have a decent time for the price. Now, yes, all 4 of these games have been on Steam for at least a little while, some of which were a couple of years, but hey, they are new to the Switch. You clicked on the new Switch games video. Don't even at me. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and feel free to check out one of these other Switch-related videos, or something else entirely by checking out the channel. For a while, I've been tossing around the idea of doing a Switch accessories video where I go through all of the Switch accessories I have and give my thoughts on them. So if that sounds like something that might be interesting to you, let me know in the comments and I'll film it for you guys. Until next time, I'm out of here. 1, 2, 3, clap.